We're going to do a tutorial here on how to use the Lathe Modifier in 3ds Max. So the first thing when you open any scene is you want to check your units. And the way you check it is you come up here, Customize, Unit Setup, and you want to set this to whatever units you're going to be using. Now I always use millimeters, metric, and system unit, set 1 to millimeters. But depending on what you're using and what you want to use, you can set this to your own units. The reason it's important is you need to know the size of whatever it is you're modeling. In this case, we're going to model a wine glass. So you take a plane and you draw it out. Now, you next need to assign a picture of the wine glass to this plane. So I'm going to bring up the material editor by pressing M, and I'm going to double click V-Ray material here. That just drops it into the slate material editor here. I'm going to press Alt Tab to go back to whatever I have open. And here I've got various reference images. So let's take this wine glass here. Okay. So I'm just going to drag and drop it into here. And I'll assign this to the diffuse slot. And make this visible, show shaded material in viewport. And assign this. Assign material to selection. Sometimes you get some oddities with 3ds Max 2018 where it just seems to disappear. I mean, you just can't see it, right? It seems it's not there. So I found if you click here on facets, it comes back. I'm going to press G to get rid of this grid. Obviously, the downside of facets is you don't see any smoothing groups. Everything's faceted. But at least you can see whatever it is you have in your viewport. No idea why it's doing that, but anyhow. Right, so the next thing is to get the dimensions here of this photo correct. So we're going to come back here to this, and the dimensions are 1920 by 1272. So I'll make this, let's close this down. So I'm going to make this 1920 by 1272. Click here on the Modify panel. 1920 goes down here. And I'm going to press Shift Tab and 1072 up here. Okay. Press F3. Go to facets. I got that wrong. 1272, not 1072. There we go. Okay. Now, let's see. Alright, now this isn't completely straight. This glass is off at an angle. Fortunately, I've got this grid here. If I bring it down below 0, you can see the grid. So I can just line it up to this grid here. So let's just rotate a bit. I'm going to check here. I haven't got angle snaps on, so I can just rotate this slightly. And there you have it. So that's now pretty much straight. That's straight enough for what we're going to do. I'm going to press Alt W. At this stage, I really don't like this grid, so I'm going to press G to get rid of the grid. I'll come up here and click on the Create tab, and then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click on the Shapes, and we're going to go Line. Now, you have to ignore that this is rounded. You know, you've got to imagine that you're looking at it straight on, and this is flat. So I'm going to take roughly the middle here of the stem. I'm just going to click out here. I'm holding Shift, so this goes in a straight line. So I'm going to click out here, then come up a little, just come in a bit, up, in, up, just roughly follow this. And I'm sure I'll be deleting some of these later, but I think I can just go like that. And then in a tiny bit, press Shift again, in a little bit, come down, just follow this down here. And it's going to go across to about there. Okay, I'll press 1. Now we're going to modify these verts to get these nice and smooth. We're going to take these two and let's try smooth first. And that's not really worked, but maybe that'll work. Yeah, that works. Okay, take these two, and I need to have a nice smooth edge here, so I'm going to use fillet. I'm just going to take that like that, and then I'm going to take these two here. That's 2 now, and I'm going to click weld. You see, there's 2 verts. Weld. Let's push that up a little. Weld. Okay, let's go. So I'm going to come down here. Let's make that Bezier. Okay. I need this to be it's a little bit too sharp. It's, you know, it's curved in reality, so we're just going to fillet that a little bit. there. I'll fillet this one too. And this one. And this one I'm going to get rid of. And I'm going to click here on refine and put another one right in the middle of these two. Okay, I'll deal with that one in the middle in a minute. Take these two. I'm going to fillet these and weld these. Oops. Right click to stop that. Okay. Weld these two. Put that something like that. And up. And let's fillet that. And oops. That one, fillet. And that one, fillet. And I'm going to take these two and weld these. Okay, now we got this odd bottom here, you know. So click that there. I'm going to set the right click on that, change that to Bezier. Right click on that. Oh, that is Bezier. Oh, Bezier corner. Change that to Bezier. And I'm just going to push that in a little. Okay. We'll do. There we go. Okay, and that's it. Now, I'm just going to isolate this. Now, when you're drawing a wine glass, you only need to do half of it. If you do it all the way around and you put a lathe on, you're going to end up with double geometry. Right, so we're going to put next thing, this is important. Go to the verts, and you need to line up these two. So let's just take this one, press W, and you got to, you want to have your snaps on. So press S. This comes on up here. You can right click on that. It gives you all of these different options. Now I have vertex selected here. And the other thing I often have is enable axis constraints. You need it here because this will allow me to, move this around, and I can snap it to there. Whereas if that's off, I can't. It's going to follow wherever I go. So make sure that's on, and just snap it there. Okay, close that. Now I put a lathe on here, and it comes out like this. Now it always comes out like this. So you have min, center, and max over here. So by default it puts it in the center, roughly in the center. It's probably actually done the pivot point. So min gives you your wine glass, maximum goes all the way the other way. So really it depends how you've drawn the spline. So that's what you want. Now we've got facets on. If I go back to default, there you go. Now you can see what we're actually dealing with there. Now we get this weird geometry there, and we're going to get some weird stuff there, and that's handled here by welding the core. Basically you had a whole ton of verts where they weren't welded and they were overlapping. So by welding the core you can handle that. Now this is kind of faceted here, so 32, I normally don't go any higher than 32, and f3. So, in my mind, this is a high poly wine glass, but it can be used. That's exactly it. So let's go top. This is what I would use if I was doing if I'm doing a restaurant or something like this. I'd just make models like this. Okay, let's unhide all. Press F3. Go back to facets. Forgot we can't see it. And let's put this alongside it and just see. Okay. So sometimes it's a good idea, you can select this. Alt X should make it. There you go. Yeah. So Alt X makes it so you can see through it, but you can't see through it that well. So press Alt X again. If you need to see through so you can see what's going on the other side, you can really just, put some refraction on the materials. So let's press M, bring up the material editor. Let's get another V-Ray material. I'll pull back this one here. Okay, let's assign this to the selection. And then I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to change the refraction here so I can see through to the degree I want to see through. I want to see what's going on behind with the glass. Okay, there we go. So we're just going to edit this line here, and if you click this little button, it shows end results so you can see what's happening. So what's happening is, over here, the wine glass is too large. Over here, the stem is too large. So, these are kind of, at the bottom here, this is sticking out over here. So we need to really make the whole thing a little bit thinner. So you can edit this and just do it that way. You can pull this in ever so slightly. And pull these in. Turn off snaps, press S. No snaps. Pull these in. And pull that in a tiny bit. And let's pull these up a little bit. Okay, and here we're getting that line, but now this one's way out, so it's too thin really. So let's just pull this. And pull this a tiny bit. There we go. And this needs to go in a little, about there. Okay. And let's press M, material editor. Let's turn off this refraction. Okay, that's better. Good enough for me. Alright, go to default shading. Okay, that's your wine glass. Now, a couple other points. Press T to go in top view and Z to zoom in. I'm in top view, so this has been created lying on its side. You really don't want that. Plus, it's always good practice to have the pivot point right at the center and at the bottom. So what we're going to do is click here, click Effect Pivot Only, press S to turn on snaps, so click Center to Object, and then I'm just going to snap this down to the lowest point down here, right there, and that's in the center at the bottom. Press T, Z, turn this off, press E, turn off snaps, S, and then rotate this 90 degrees. Oops, press A, I want angle snaps on. Now with angle snaps, one thing you should know if you right click here, you've got the angle here, 5, so every time it clicks it's going to go 5 degrees. But I think by default this is 1 or something, so you need to change that to whatever is necessary, whatever you like. I normally like working with 5s. 90. Right. Now the problem is it thinks one of these sides is the top, and so on and so forth. So go to top view, press Z. Oops. Escape. Press Z. There we go. And we're just going to click over here, and we're going to say Reset XForm. Reset selected, and convert to editable poly. Okay, now one thing which I've forgotten, I just remembered now, I should have done this in the first place, is, if I click here on facets, we made this picture the size of the image, and normally what I'll do is after I've made this picture the size of the image, I'll then go, okay, well how big is this wine glass? So, I know it's 1920 by 1272, but that means I've got a 2-meter image. This wine glass right now is massive. So what I do is go, well, what size is a real wine glass? A real wine glass box is about 16 centimeters. So I'll just draw this out, and length, just go 160 centimeters. Actually, let's make it 165. Okay. I mean 165 millimeters, yeah, 16.5 centimeters. Then press E and rotate this 90 degrees. Well, actually, right, so then what I would do is I take this picture and then I press R, and I can scale it. I can just click here and I can just drag this down. And basically, what I'm trying to do is just get this wine glass to match that. So just keep going until you get to the right size. And that's it. And then I would then do my splines based on that. But in this case, I forgot to do that step. So what I'm going to do is just click R, rotate this 90 degrees, F for front, Z, press G, get rid of the grid. I really don't like that grid. Okay. Let's move this box up to there. And this guy, I'm going to press R on him and take the middle here. And I'm just going to uniformly scale him down. Down, 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 down. There you go. Now you really do need to reset the XForm. Reset the XForm is reset the transform. It's to tell this that this is the new size. Because right now it still thinks it's 2 meters or 1.5 meters or something in size. So even though it's been scaled, it doesn't know it's been scaled. So mapping is going to go weird if I have to map this. So here, click on here, reset the transform, reset selected, right click, convert to editable poly. Okay. And that's my Wineglass. Let me just get rid of these two things. Right, now in typical fashion, Max crashed on me. But here you have your Wineglass, and that's how you use the Lathe Modifier. And come into the verts, Control A, and just check weld 0.1. It's going to weld some verts, get rid of some of the excess. Try it again. No, that's it. Okay. And one last thing on this to use, always check when you do a lathe is just turn on backface curl, object properties, backface curl, make sure this is on. Basically, because sometimes, sometimes you put it on and it looks like this. But if backface curl is not turned on, it's going to look like a normal piece of geometry. And then if it looks like a normal piece of geometry, it can render out weird and the whole thing can be a bit odd. So object properties, backface curl. And if needed, then you can add your, normals and just make sure that's flipped. Make sure that's correct. So that's it. That's how you use the Lathe Modifier, and those are the things which you need to check for in 3ds Max when you're using this. Good luck.